He only went into the woods for spare parts. Old drop pod crash, maybe some scrap he could sell. What he didn't expect was to find a half-feral alien girl, wrapped in rusted snare wire and snarling like something rabid. Fur matted, eyes glowing yellow, claws twitching at every movement. He crouched low, raised his hands, said, "Easy. I'm not the one who trapped you," she hissed. He pulled out his multi-tool, stepped closer, ignored the way she tensed like a spring. One snip. Two. She lunged. He braced for impact and got a faceful of fur and heat. She tackled him down, straddled his chest, and then licked his throat. Slowly. Wet. Intense. Then again, this time with a low rumble in her chest. His hands hovered, frozen. Right. Not what I expected." She nuzzled him like a cat marking territory, then curled up on top of him like she was done for the day. He lay there, staring at the sky, wondering what weird pheromone nightmare he just stepped into. Back at his shelter, she refused to leave his side. He'd walk? She'd pace beside him. He'd sit? She'd crawl into his lap and nest under his jaw like a weird organic neck warmer. She didn't speak. Just purred and watched him with that focused, unblinking gaze that made him feel like prey and possession all at once. That night, he locked his bedroom door. She howled until he opened it. Then she curled up beside him, wrapped her limbs around his torso, and buried her nose against his throat. He whispered, "You do realize this isn't normal behavior, right?" She didn't answer. She just licked him again and sighed. Morning came with fur in his mouth and claws gently resting on his chest. He tried to sneak out of bed. She stirred the moment his pulse quickened. Her eyes opened. Her head tilted. And then she crawled up, licked his throat again, and looked smug about it. "Is this some weird alien kink? Is my neck the universal on switch or something?" She purred. When he tried to step outside for fresh air, she followed, barefoot and shirtless, her tail flicking behind her like a metronome of silent judgment. Every time someone looked at him for more than 3 seconds, she would growl. Low. Possessive. He thought maybe she was just confused, disoriented. Until she bit his collar when he tried putting on a different shirt. Not hard, just enough to tug. "No," she grunted. First word. "Yours," she added, pawing the shirt. "Smell stays." Later, she climbed into his lap again. Didn't say anything. Just pressed her cheek to his neck, eyes closed, as if it were her personal charging port. When he shifted, she grunted. "Don't move." "Still tasting." He stared at her. "Still tasting what?" She nuzzled again. "Truth." He blinked. "Truth lives in my throat?" She nodded solemnly. "That is where your voice begins. That is where I stay." It didn't get better. Or worse. Just weirder. She followed him into the bathroom. Into the shower. Sat cross-legged on the floor while he tried not to die of embarrassment. She watched him shave. Then offered to do it for him, licking the side of his neck in pre-shave ritual like she was tuning into his skin frequency. She made a bed in his laundry pile. Refused to sleep if it didn't smell like him. One time he left for supplies. Came back. Found her curled up on his pillow, eyes bloodshot, shaking like she'd run a marathon. The moment she saw him, she leapt onto him, latched onto his throat like a vampire going in for seconds, and didn't let go for 10 minutes. Just breathed him in. Licked him twice. Then fell asleep standing. That night, he Googled alien cultural behaviors, throat glands, pheromone rituals, and the phrase, "Alien thinks I'm her mate." Results were inconclusive. Unless he was looking for tentacle fan fiction. Which, he wasn't. Not yet anyway. He recorded a video diary, just in case he vanished under suspicious throat-related circumstances. Day 4. She still won't let me sleep alone. If I lock the door, she scratches until I give up. If I try to sneak off the bed, she wakes up. One time, she held me down and snored on my jugular. I'm not sure if I'm flattered or being slowly sedated. He asked her name. She didn't answer with words. Just purred and rested her palm against his throat like she was claiming territory. Okay, he said. Guess we're going with Fawn. It fits. She approved. Licked him again. He sighed. You know you can't keep licking people's throats in public, right? She tilted her head. Only yours. That should have made it better. Somehow it didn't. He built a temporary translator out of spare parts and a half-dead COM node. It took 3 hours of glitchy trial and error, but eventually the device clicked into alignment with her vocal frequency. When she spoke, the voice came out warped but clear. Your throat is claimed. I cannot sleep without the sound. He blinked slowly. That wasn't just some alien cuddle instinct? She tilted her head. No. It is scent bond. Scent at night, sound and breath. It marks the sleep place. You are now sleepmate. He stared at her. You're saying, I'm your bed now? She nodded solemnly. She explained further in clipped, precise alien phrasing. Her kind formed attachments based on scent truth. Only one partner could trigger their bond without setting off a chemical aggression reflex. She hadn't just been grateful when he rescued her, she had been imprinted. Permanently. Her instincts insisted his throat, specifically, was the safest place to sleep. If she didn't make contact with it, her system would reject rest entirely. No contact, no calm. No calm, no sleep. No sleep, no sense. I will go claw mad, she said plainly. He tested the theory by keeping his distance one night. Within 20 minutes, she was pacing in circles, panting, muttering to herself in low growls. She tried to scratch through the door. Eventually she curled into a shaking ball, breathing heavily. He gave in, cracked the door. She didn't even look at him, just leapt into his arms, latched onto his neck like it was home, and passed out. His shirt was soaked with saliva. His will to resist shredded. By the next morning, he had stopped resisting altogether. He got used to waking up with claws across his ribs and fangs gently brushing his pulse. He stopped complaining when she licked his throat before bed. He started bringing extra towels. She started leaving little things on his pillow, rocks, feathers, scraps of cloth. Nest offerings, she called them. He asked if she could start leaving food instead. She brought him a raw bird. The locals noticed. One vendor asked, Your girlfriend's the throat licker, right? Jack muttered something vague. Word spread. She became known as his neckmate, which wasn't a real term until they made it one. A researcher tried to ask her questions, she sniffed him, snarled, and said, Not his throat. Move. That became a meme. He started losing sleep too, but for other reasons. Every time she curled around him, her body heat pressed against his chest, her breath hot on his neck, her claws teasing the edge of his collar, he started to feel it. Not fear. Not annoyance. Something else. Something that hummed under his skin when she whispered in her sleep, or when she purred after finding the exact notch in his neck to nestle into. It was disarming. Addicting. He tried talking to her about it. So, this scent bond. Does it mean you're, married to me now? She blinked slowly. Married is your word. Our word is claimed for breath. You are my calm. I am your shield. I keep sleep on your throat. No others. He muttered. This is the weirdest engagement ever. She looked proud. She followed him everywhere now. To the market. To repair jobs. Once, he took a temporary gig fixing solar panels on the roof of a nearby outpost. She climbed up after him, curled on the sun-warmed metal, and stared down every worker who got within 5 feet. You're making it really hard to have normal conversations, he whispered. She licked his throat. I stop you from bad mating. You are welcome. One night, he tried to go to a town mixer, socializing, meeting new people, maybe just talking to someone who didn't sniff him like a blanket. She came too. Sat in his lap. Glared at anyone who looked his way. When another woman tried to say hello, Fawn leaned in and bared her teeth, then licked his neck slow and deliberate while making eye contact. The girl left. Jack didn't know if he was horrified or aroused. Back home, he confronted her. You can't just scare people off. She frowned. They threatened the throat. They didn't even touch me. Their scent reached you. Their gaze landed on your breathplace. That is enough. He rubbed his eyes. This is insane. She softened. You may go. If you wish. I will sleep without you. Eventually. Maybe. He sighed. No. That's not what I meant. She crawled into his lap, nuzzled his jawline. You are strange. Soft. Loud. You do not claw. But you fix broken things. You fixed me. He didn't have an answer. She whispered. Sleep now? He nodded. She curled up, cheek to throat, and whispered one last thing before drifting off. Your breath makes the world quiet. And somehow, that was the most comforting thing anyone had ever said to him. She started mimicking his habits. Brushing her fangs after meals because he brushed his teeth. Trying coffee, gagging, then snarling at the mug like it had insulted her ancestors. Watching him shave, then stealing his razor to try trimming her cheek fur. He caught her once, shirtless, in front of the mirror, tapping at her own throat like she was wondering what part of her it equaled in human terms. She noticed him watching. You always cover yours. With cloth. Is it shame? He blinked. It's just a shirt. She walked up, tugged at his collar, and said, You should not hide what I've claimed. The more time they spent together, the harder it became to separate routine from ritual. She insisted on licking his neck before he left the house. To bless your return. She'd greet him at the door with a sniff and purr, sometimes wrapping her arms around his waist and muttering, Safe throat. Good mate. He stopped correcting her. He stopped wanting to. He started leaving the collar of his shirt slightly open. He started shaving his neck more carefully. He started listening for the quiet rumble she made when content, and missing it when it wasn't there. He got a call from a terraforming crew on the outer ridge. Good pay, solid contract for weeks. Housing included, single occupancy only. No room for alien companions. He told her that night. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, So I sleep alone again. Just for a bit. He said. It's a good opportunity. She nodded like she understood, but the next morning he found her curled up in his duffel bag, tail tucked, eyes defiant. I shrink. You take me. You're not luggage, he said. You're not a pet. I am your throat mate, she replied. Throat goes. I go. He left anyway. Told himself it was temporary. That she'd adapt. That he needed space. The first night in the new place, he didn't sleep. No weight across his chest. No breath against his neck. No low, soft growl when he shifted in bed. The silence felt wrong. He woke up sweating, heart racing, reaching for a presence that wasn't there. Day 2, he tried sleeping with a warm towel around his neck. It did nothing. Day 3, he saw claw marks on the inside of his shirt collar and missed her so hard it hurt. She didn't call. Didn't message. No surprise. She hated tech. He went back to work. He tried to focus. But he kept seeing her shadow in reflective surfaces, kept catching the phantom sound of her breathing against his pulse. One night, he found himself whispering to the empty room, I miss my damn neck blanket. Then he cursed himself, but didn't stop. On day 5, he woke up to movement. Thought it was a dream. Then felt warm breath on his neck, claws gently gripping his shoulder. He turned his head, and there she was, curled beside him like she'd never left. You tracked me here? Your scent was weak. Took time. But I found it. They're going to freak out if they see you. Let them. I need your throat. You need mine. He didn't argue. He let her curl around him. He let her purr lull him to sleep. He didn't wake up until the next morning, deep, dreamless rest. The terraforming teams saw her and tried to complain. She stared them down. One technician tried to get security involved. Jack told them she was registered under Alien Kinship Protocol 7. They asked what that meant. He said, "It means she doesn't sleep unless she's breathing into my throat, and if she doesn't sleep, she claws walls. And if she claws walls, your oxygen pipes are next." They backed off. That night, they lay in the narrow bunk, barely fitting. She rested her hand on his chest. "You did not sleep well without me. Neither did you. Because our sleep is mated. I tried to be strong. But I am not. I am just mine when I am yours." He ran his hand through her hair gently. "You ever think this was a mistake?" "Never." "I did. And now?" He looked at her. The sharpness of her teeth. The raw honesty in her eyes. The way her breath slowed when his pulse steadied. "Now I think I'm okay being claimed." She licked his throat once. Soft. No growl. Just affection. He didn't flinch. Didn't roll his eyes. Just closed them, and breathed in. For the first time in days, the air felt right. The supervisor called him in the next morning. Not to fire him, surprisingly, but to ask one very specific question. "Is the alien going to keep sleeping in your bunk?" Jack blinked and said, "Unless you've got a spare throat for her to borrow, yes." The man didn't argue. No one did anymore. The entire outpost had quietly decided not to question the arrangement. Mostly because any time someone tried, Fong would glare at them with ears pinned and claws twitching until they backed off. One guy offered Jack earplugs as a joke. Fong responded by sniffing the man's neck with exaggerated slowness. He filed for relocation the next day. Things settled into a rhythm. Jack worked the shift, fixed the machinery, came back to the small room where Fong waited on the bed like she belonged there. She always did the same ritual, sniffed his collar, nuzzled the side of his neck, gave it one slow lick like it was the lock screen on a personal device. Then she'd curl around him, her arm over his ribs, her face buried in his throat. "Still mine," she'd murmur, every single night. "Always yours," he'd reply, without thinking. And somehow, that line became the anchor to everything. He'd never been the sentimental type. But it was hard not to notice the way her breathing changed when she was curled against him. How her entire posture softened. The girl who once snarled at light fixtures now hummed when he read aloud. She called it throat song. Said it lulled her like a heartbeat. Sometimes she'd nuzzle in closer and whisper about her world, her den, her mother's old fur-wrapping technique. She asked if human mothers wrap throats too. He said no, but they held you when you cried. Fong nodded solemnly. "Holding is good. But scent lasts longer." One day, she brought him a collar. Real leather, handmade, with a simple bone charm hanging from the center. "For your neck," she said. "To show you are kept." He held it like it was fragile. "You know people will think I'm into weird stuff if I wear this, right?" "You are," she said bluntly. "You let me bite you and snore on you every night." He laughed, and put it on. From that point forward, no one even pretended not to know. He was hers. Visibly, proudly, his throat marked by Fong and charm alike. Weeks passed. Then the outpost announced a planetary reassignment. The project was moving. Everyone would be shipped back to the central hub for redistribution. Jack read the memo and looked at Fong. "They'll scan everyone. Full bio sweep. You won't pass." She didn't panic. She just tilted her head. "You go. I follow." "You can't. You'll get flagged. Quarantined. Maybe worse. Then I hide." "You can't hide in a transport crate forever." "Then I fight." He sighed, rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Fong, where you sleep I sleep. Where your throat goes I go. You are breath bond. I will not be left." He thought long and hard about it. Then he hacked the station records, registered her as a biotherapy assistant under his ID, and filed a fake medical condition, chronic neural instability triggered by lack of contact. They called it throat stimulus anxiety disorder. It passed inspection. On the transport ship, she wore a lab coat over a stolen uniform and clung to him like she was still part of his shirt. When asked about her role, she simply said, "I regulate throat." The officers didn't question it. Most didn't even look them in the eye. One guard flinched when she sniffed him in the hallway. Another asked if she was aggressive. Jack said, "Only if someone interrupts her nap." They made it to the central hub. Bigger space. Shared quarters. More people. More rules. But Fong didn't care. She carved out a new routine. She stalked the halls until they smelled right. She rearranged their beds so his neck faced the doorway. She purred when they fell asleep. She muttered phrases in her language, ones he didn't know, but felt. Words that vibrated through her breath onto his throat. Promises. One night, he asked, "You ever think about leaving? Finding your own den?" She shook her head. "I already found it. And it breathes." He kissed her cheek. She growled low and pleased, then traced her claw along his throat. "My favorite sound," she said. "Not your laugh. Not your voice. Just the air you let out when you see me." He exhaled. She smiled. By now, he knew he wouldn't sleep right without her either. Not just the weight of her, or the warmth, but that odd primal thing that had started as an accident and become a connection. His bed smelled like her. His pulse synced to her purr. His days ended with her breath against his throat, and nothing ever felt safer. She fell asleep that night whispering something that translated roughly to, "The moon would forget to rise before I forget your scent." He didn't reply. He just pulled her closer and smiled. And in the dark, with her curled against him like a live flame on his neck, he realized something absurd, something wild, something entirely human. He didn't want her to stop claiming him. Ever.